Okay, so for this one, I will change the pose a little bit. Let's do something more. I'll do a couple just so that you see kind of a more closed pose and a more flared one. So start with a simple one. Like there's some foreshortening in the thumb. Definitely not a lot of information, so I want to make this interesting. And the way I would do that is just block out the silhouette first. That would, by doing that, and I am actually drawing the boundaries of this drawing. So I know everything outside does not matter. I'm limiting everything to this drawn boundary. And again, I am thinking about the structure, so I'm not ignoring it, but I'm more interested in getting the silhouette shape first and then filling the blanks. And this is actually a very quick way to not actually overthink foreshortening, because you're not paying attention to how a finger looks. You're just literally looking at ratio, you know, how much this part of the finger sticks out compared to this, and it's very, very straightforward. So I know, okay, this is my silhouette, this is what I have to work with. I'm going to sketch my sleeve here. So when I was in school, this is how I would approach a drawing, and it was frustrating when somebody will come to me and say, you didn't do construction, where's your construction line? I'm like, well, I have it in my head, I don't need it. So please leave me alone. But again, I did have the foundation already. So again, if this is not something that comes natural to you, or if it's too difficult, maybe you're not quite ready to tackle it this way, but it is a different method of approaching drawing. So now that I have it, I can actually work on that foreshortened thumb. I'm already getting values that I like. To me, this silhouette's more interesting already versus that construction one that I previously did. Now I'm starting to pay attention to some of that hand topography on the outside, especially when this finger is flexed a little bit. There's this kind of bulging of this muscle right here. So I'm loosely mapping that. And then for this finger, I'm just starting to make details appear. And as soon as you start putting these fingernails in place, automatically this is foreshortened. And it's kind of the beauty of silhouette, is when you have your distances already kind of mapped out just by silhouetting the general shape. So it's like it's literally thinking inside out, thinking the big picture first and then slowly filling the blanks. And a lot of times you don't have to do that. You don't have to even fill in the blank. If, for example, if you look at the work of somebody like Sergio Topi, there's a lot of silhouette that's completely blank, but you know what you're looking at because the silhouette is so strong. He would have figures where, you know, if details need to be in the face, everything else is kind of left untouched, left blank. He literally just silhouette. So again, I begin with doing the big shapes. Big light and shadow shapes Just getting those tones down, those values in comparison to each other. Usually fingertips, when they're not in color, are a little darker because the blood supply is a little more there, and red, when you convert it to black and white, usually tends to run darker than let's say the rest of my skin tone. Also, this knuckle that's foreshortened, because it's away from me, it also appears darker. So by punching that up, I'm enforcing that bend and that light and shadow change here. If I leave this the same, the thumb might just feel small and not necessarily foreshortened. Another thing I do for foreshortening is my lines are kind of going with the shape of the finger. That also is a way to enforce that angle change here and the illusion of things bending away. The back of this here, this finger is also darker because it is further away from me than the rest of the hand. So whatever's closest will probably have the most contrast and the brightest parts. I think about line quality as I do this. I want to have areas that kind of bleed out. To me, that's just very aesthetically pleasing. I do these early. You don't have to wait until the end to put these kind of nice looking details. Put them as early as you wish. So again, I'm not going for realism, but a realistic feel. I'm not trying to be like hyper concrete with the details. I'm more implying certain details and creating this visual illusion that, oh yeah, this is a more realistic piece. But a lot of things are stylized. For example, this bright area isn't as bright as I see it, but I do want to leave it because it does create this feeling of depth, and also the feeling of a hand that has warm and dark parts that feel like flesh and doesn't feel like plastic. With just loose strokes with the blending step, I kind of define some of these wrinkles, muscles very, very loosely, but enough where if someone sees this, they're like, oh yeah, okay, she knows what she's looking at. She knows how to pay attention to these muscles that will make this pose feel believable. And then for the sleeve, I can get a little more designy here. Get a little more playful, and this contrast I find very, very nice. Having something very detailed paired with a not so detailed element. It's almost like a little dance. You decide what to leave unfinished and where to put your most effort in. All right, I'll stop here. And I'll do one more of the same method.
So is this a recommended exercise for students, or do you do it yourself?
It's I would recommend this for anybody. I mean, this is if you have if if you have excuses, having something like this, you have no excuses to not draw. It's literally just I want to show that you need the bare minimum to get a lot of great results and just get your brain going. This to me is like brain gym. You just exercise it, you you get your excitement going. I do maybe I can do anywhere from a couple to 10 of these, especially if I feel rusty. I don't want to start a piece where I know it's gonna be frustrating. I want to start where I'm fired up. I know I've done my, I guess, exercise for the day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would recommend this for students. I would recommend this for professionals. You can do so much with so little.
Were you taught to do this, or is this something that you have developed over the years?
So when I went to college, I took a lot of life drawing, and the speed that I developed there helped me maintain this, even when I didn't go to class. So this is something I developed, I guess, post school, but it started there.
But it wasn't like an assignment.
It was not, no.
Okay, so something that you develop on your own as a warm-up.
I guess you would say, if you yes, I had gesture drawing, which was pretty much this, but it was timed. It was with a model, so this will be my very limited version of that. Nice. That I wanted to keep going even beyond the classroom.
From your either original art or your previous printed your book, I see some hand drawing. Is it from the exercise as well?
Yeah, it's literally the same thing. Some are from class. Sometimes I would take life drawing classes even when I was at Pixar. They had some during lunchtime. Usually those were for more like story purposes where the model would have props. So a lot of people will go there to exercise, I guess, like pushing shapes, pushing poses, action poses, come up with ideas that way. I actually sometimes would focus on one body part the entire class. So I would ignore everything else, ignore the pose, and just see what the hands are doing. You can pick and choose what you want to get out of your class. You don't have to necessarily follow what everybody else is doing. So a lot of times, if I do, 20 poses, it will literally be me just looking at the hands of the model. And that was not an assignment. That was not what the teacher would necessarily say. Or if there was a teacher, it might be uninstructed classes. If I remember there was one time where the poses were just so boring. But then their hands were interesting, or the feet were interesting, or the ear was interesting. And, you can do that. You can just focus on one part and make the best out of that class.
Awesome.
So let's do one more.
So for whoever's watching this video, we'll just say maybe they should watch your video, and maybe second time they should just draw along with you.
That'll be great, yeah. Especially if they see the pose and they want to try either their hand or what I'm doing and compare. That is very, very helpful. This teaches you quite a few things. It teaches you how to be very observant on a small scale, how to be confident with your lines, how to trust the lines, and really just develop the speed as well. Speed in animation was crucial. And I came from a very much like a fine art background with poses that would range from a few hours to 6, 12-hour poses, sometimes days. So when I went to animation, it was so difficult to even accept the idea of a gesture drawing. To me, a gesture drawing was like a stick figure. And that I believed that, and I didn't like gesture drawings because I was not getting any results that I liked. And it was kind of mind blowing when I saw people there who were upperclassmen and they were just doing these beautiful, beautiful drawings with almost like a whip of their hand. I was looking, I'm like, this is sorcery. How? This is exactly what I want. I'm not getting it. And that's when I figured, oh, the problem is not the drawing, the problem is me not having the speed. So something like this would actually break that pattern of thinking. And that's what I wanted to show. You can do very fast, quick drawings that look as if you took hours.
Awesome.